Hello, everybody. You're gonna have to come over here because for whatever reason, I'm having trouble going live on the other stream. So, can everybody see me? Okay. Volume. Unmute. Why can't I? What the hell's going on here? All right, can everybody see me? I'm having a problem here. Yes, people can see me. Okay, great. So, we're gonna have to just change things up. So, your crew is on duty. Okay, can you guys come over to the new stream? Okay, I'm gonna close this out. Hold on. I'm sorry, you guys. YouTube is not letting me. I don't know what's going on, but it's not allowing. Okay, let's just let this go. I don't know what to do. Can people see me on the new stream? Okay, I'm getting a lot of responses here, so we're gonna move on. The joys of technology. Okay. My apologies, my apologies. My apologies, my apologies. My apologies, my apologies. Okay, we're back. Hello, we're moving things around. Please be patient. I am an oracle from another lifetime. I don't always do things, I don't handle a modern living that well. So we have a lot to do today. There's a lot to go through, and I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can. So I think I'm going to come down here so you all can see my beautiful Kuan Yin. All right, can you all see that? Is that not beautiful or what? Okay, so I'm getting better organized here. I've got my computer here. All right, so Mila will probably join us soon. I told her we were at work. She didn't want to go to work. She wanted to take the day off. She said that she wanted to go play with her friend Bert, and I'm making her go to work for an hour. So she was a little annoyed with that, but I told her this is what we do. We help people. All right, welcome everybody. So we've got some people in the house. Let's make sure and say hi to everyone. Each and every one. God bless you, each and every one. All right, so we're saying hi to Miriam. Hello, Miriam. Saying hi to Laura, Johanna, Maureen, Ashley, Miriam. Shalom again. T-Bird, Johanna, Margaret, Darla, Chatty Cathy. Okay, folks, who wants to be my moderators? I'll take more than one because it's a little overwhelming if it's only going to be one person. So we need some moderators before we get started. We have a lot to do today. I had like 20 remotes last night. Oh my God, talk about downloads. I'm gonna push this a little bit further back. Oh, you guys, we have so much to go through. Oh, Gracie wants to be a moderator. So welcome Grace, everyone, as one of our moderators. Anybody else? I need some more moderators. It's going to be too much work for her. Okay, and Bo. Bo will be a moderator. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good here. Anybody else want to be a moderator? Who's a... Okay, Kathy. Shalom, Kathy. I think we're pretty well set now. Did I do that properly? Yeah. Kathy, can you just let me know? Hello, Shalom, if you got taken. Yeah. Okay, so Kathy, I just want to make sure she's a moderator. I'm sorry this is taking so long, people. I'm not technically savvy. Okay. Oh, I think all right, I think we're fine. So if you're a moderator, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to just say hi to everybody first and foremost. So hello everybody. I hope this is not like too far in my face. Let's push this back a little bit so that people are having a little space with me. Hello Linda, Maureen, Julia, Chatty Kathy, Miss High C, Sparkle, Julie, Kathy, shalom everybody. So glad that everybody could join us here today. Last night I had my friend Darlene Christopher here for 4 days. She's one of my dearest friends. We've been friends for over 20 years. We were both tarot readers at a small bookstore which was called Know Thyself, Love Thyself. And she was here for 4 days. And she was busy with meetings, and we never got to record anything. Thanks. The crew is here, yes. So, but I am going to be planning to do an interview with Darlene Christopher, who she's one of my readers. She's a close friend of mine. She's located out of Seattle. She does do phone readings. And I can't speak highly enough about her. I also wanted to give a shout out to my fellow colleagues here who do YouTube. If you can't get in with me, absolutely try and get a reading from some of the other great readers out there. Linda G, David Johnson, Lena Down Under Jen, she's great. Tarot's Apprentice, also some good stuff. Serena, great stuff. Langston, also good. So just please support the readers. If I'm promoting them, it's because I believe that they are trying to be open, honest, ethical people. I really have also enjoyed The Empress, Mary's Table. She's quite good. She's one of the newer channels up. I support her channel. I also like Revealing Light Tarot is one of my absolute favorites as well, because she's intellectual in how she interprets the cards, and I appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. There's 220 of us, and I assume more people will be joining us. The first thing I want to talk about is the map that I showed when I put up for the live stream. And if everybody wants to go ahead and open up your Google Maps, just so that you can follow along with these remotes, so that you can see the quote-unquote trade routes that Putin is talking about. And I know people are like, why do you have to keep going back to Putin? We have to keep going back to Putin because that's the underlying problem. Now, a lot of people were worried because, and I lost people. I'm sorry about that. People left because there was so much Putin propaganda. But I can tell you as a remote viewer that sometimes I have to wade through a lot of crap. I just have to. I mean, if you're trying to, for those people who are training to be remote viewers, and today I'm going to talk about 2 remote viewing techniques. So the heart-centered, but then the basic military type of training for remote viewings. And today's review of the remotes, most of it is based on the traditional remote viewing technique, where I just went in and looked at targets. Very little of last night's remote was the heart-centered. I like to go back to the basics when I'm just trying to get basic information. So if you've opened up Google Maps, you should see, and you take a look at Mongolia. The first area that I'm pulled to as a remote viewer is the eastern border of Mongolia. And you can see that the eastern border of Mongolia is very close to Beijing. And there is, in fact, a train that goes from Beijing into Mongolia, into Russia. So it appears from, I don't know anything about this, I know there's a lot of people that watch this channel that know a lot more about geography, history, foreign relations, etc. But it appears that there's some kind of blockade or restriction of what type of transport Russia can get out through Mongolia. Mongolia became the People's Republic of Mongolia when the Russians encouraged Mongolia to stage its own version of a revolution, a pro-Soviet revolution, and it became the People's Republic of Mongolia. And then I did some homework. I did the remotes, and then I had to Google to find out what I was seeing. But basically, then Russia moved in, and from what I'm able to see in the northeast corner of Mongolia, if you go to the far northeast corner of Mongolia on the map, that appears to be where there's a lot of military bases, military training, and I guess that just, and also trading military aid, etc., between China Russia, but also straight into North Korea. So what appears to have happened is that we're blocking that trade, and this has led to sanctions with North Korea if we're blocking that trade route. So this is one of the trade routes that Putin is trying to get in, and it would unify Russia, Mongolia, and China, and then eventually strengthen North Korea. So this is the axis, and this is why there's so much focus on Mongolia. I don't know why the American news doesn't just tell us this stuff, since it's, to have to go through all this work just to figure out what's going on. So there's a block of some type, probably via the United Nations, probably people who know something about this. This is the trade route that we're concerned about, and this is what Americans are not finding out about. But anyway, so it goes from eastern Mongolia and northeastern Mongolia into China, and eventually into North Korea. And this is the aid that we are very worried about. We're really worried about the American side, this becoming a no man's land for all kinds of activities. So Russia would like to increase its presence in that area. The second trade route we're looking at goes from, it's Iran bordering Afghanistan. So if you go and you Google Afghanistan now, it's okay, I'm terrible at geography too. I did it last night. When I was doing my remote viewings, I had to just like, what the heck am I looking? Okay, so Iran has the Caspian Sea, you have the Black Sea, you have Iran, and you have Russia, and you have the trade routes going in from the waters into Iran, and then from Iran going into Afghanistan. This is another important trade route for Russia. And specifically, if you continue to open up your map or to have a long view, you'll see Pakistan. And Pakistan is the area that Russia is intending on isolating. So I can't tell you how frustrated I am that I had to do all this. Why don't they cover this stuff in the news? Russia wants to come in and establish a stronger territory via Mongolia, and they also want to come in via Iran and take the Afghanistan route back, which also borders China, and then theoretically, hi Sharon, and then theoretically they would be able to isolate Pakistan, which was overrun by Muslim fundamentalists. Now, from Putin's perspective, it's the Muslim fundamentalists, many of them funded by by Saudi Arabia, that he feels have destabilized the area. Now, the Saudi royal family agrees with him, and this goes back to the new contract between Putin and the new Saudi government. And the new Saudi government was one of the meditations I did last night. Hello, Julia again. Geography 101 today. Yeah, we have to do it because, yeah, because we Americans are not getting the news, so this is what we've resorted to. Okay, so the new Saudi prince is one of the people that we remote viewed last night. He's responsible for engineering the assassination of Khashoggi, most likely because this plot that we're now uncovering via this channel and via working with other remote viewers, this is what we basically came to. So the plot was to open up these trade routes for the military and for Russia and China so that the Muslim fundamentalists and extremists, which had previously been funded by loyal Saudi backers, could be squeezed. So one of the things that Putin is trying to do is he's trying to isolate Pakistan, which he feels is a threat. Pakistan keeps him up at night just like it keeps Obama up at night. And it's because they have nuclear weapons and they are bordering India. So you have India, and you see how complicated this is getting? So you have India and Pakistan both with nuclear weapons pointed at one another. And this is what Russia wants to deal with. Russia wants to go in on both quote unquote trade routes. He wants to establish a neutral for-hire military. It looks like, in terms of who would pay for the military, probably he's thinking World Bank or whatever countries agree to pay the fee. So if you've got 100, if you've got 10 or 15 military, and each country is paying for its own military to police some area via the United Nations, that's more expensive than if everybody pays 1/10. So you see how this is working? So you go to a group of countries and you say, I want to open up trade between Afghanistan, Iran, and China. I want to get my trade route out, so I'm willing to pay. Yes, I love all those people. They're wonderful. Hi, Maria. So they're willing to pay. So Russia is very, very nice. We're very nice. Problem with that. It goes back to the reason that Dan Coates resigned. And it goes back to this idea of the intelligence agencies feeling that there are leaks in the intelligence agencies, and it goes back to Michael Flynn. So people are selling their intelligence expertise, their capacities as a general, in order to basically overthrow the United States. But it's being packaged as a way to profit the United States. Flynn's statement was, what I did because I thought it was going to help the United States. He told himself it was reasonable. He told himself it was logical to pull out all these American troops. We don't need to be dying for oil, right? It all sounds logical. It all sounds reasonable. But when you look at Putin's solution, which is soldiers of fortress, psychopaths going in, it's really not a solution. At the same time, all the countries, all the superpowers are coming to the same exact conclusion. And this is what we have to hear as a planet. And this is the situation we face. And this is what you're going to be hearing more about. And that is that as a planet, we are broke. This is the hard truth that no one has the heart to tell the American people. China is now admitting to it. Russia is broke. Hey, they've got a GDP of Italy. Well, what does that say about us if everything's connected? So we're trillions of dollars in debt. We've borrowed from China that's broke. We can't pay China back. Russia's broke. And so let's be reasonable. Nobody can win this war. We're having nuclear proliferation, so you're going to have to deal with Putin. That's his argument, but that is not Nancy Pelosi's argument. All right, like I said, this was a really big remote. Nancy Pelosi wants it to be, she understands the need to withdraw the troops. She understands, but it's not going to be Putin. It's going to be the United Nations. And if the World Bank is going to, which is the financial sector of the United Nations, is going to pay for anything, it's going to pay for the UN to go in and police and monitor these areas. The reason why Putin and the reason why these independent contractors feel it's a better fit is because when you're transporting cargo, and some of it's military and some of it may be something else, you really just want soldiers of fortune who are hired to simply make sure the cargo gets through. Don't ask any questions, don't ask, don't tell, move the cargo. So if you're thinking about who would be the perfect soldier of fortune to simply be gun for hire in Afghanistan, in Iraq, or wherever, it's usually a soldier with excellent training who has had to lead men into dangerous areas like Fallujah, get his own men out, get his own men in, and he's become disillusioned by the war in Iraq, or he's been disillusioned by the war in Afghanistan. He can barely earn a living on an American GI salary. He might be a sergeant or a lieutenant, and he joins a company like Blackwater to take those skills to go in and just be a soldier for hire, because he realizes that he says, hey, when I was in the military risking my life and the life of my men in Fallujah or wherever, it was all about protecting foreign oil. If that's what we're living and dying for, I might as well make more money. So this is the level of morale of the U.S. military. And that's very dangerous as well, because if we have a high suicide rate amongst the American GIs, and if the morale is low, that also doesn't bode well for the future of the country. All right, so I went in and took a look at the Saudi Arabians. Hello, Margaret, Elaine, and Melissa. And when I went in to look at the Saudi Arabian royal family and the problem with slow, steady increase in fundamentalist Islam, it looked historically like they had been funding the building of Saudi Arabian mosque all over the world, and the idea was to spread Wahhabi Islam all over the world. And now the damage has been done. There's unfortunately extremists all over the world and terrorism, and now the new Saudi royal family is engaged in a crackdown. So when I go into the Saudi royal family's energy, they said the first thing that they did was they cut off funds to major offenders. So evidently there were people with a lot of money, even some Saudi royals, who are religious extremists, and they were funding these questionable groups. And so what the Saudi prince did is he arrested them. He arrested people that it wasn't just people that were planning a coup, it was these extremist religious ideologies that they were trying to stuff out. Some were given stiff warnings. This is from the prince. Some of the people in Saudi Arabia were given stiff warnings. Many were arrested. They attempted to engage in an insurrection, which we took down. This is what the Saudi's official statement is. Our intelligence agencies have partnered and cooperated with British intelligence in order to monitor the flow of money, etc. So that's the official thing that's coming out from Saudi Arabia. And it goes back to this alliance between Saudi Arabia, Russia, Trump, and Israel, where the reasonable, right, we're putting it in quotations, the reasonable people are going to come in. They're going to get rid of Muslim extremists. They're going to bring in Blackwater and other independent contractors to open up trade. And this is the only way we're going to save ourselves from economic collapse. The UN and NATO is very aware of what this group of people is trying to do, but the main intelligence leak, the function of the original investigation was to find the intelligence leaks. And when we started this experiment a year and a half ago, it was to find the intelligence leaks. And so it turns out that a lot of those intelligence leaks were through these contracting companies, which were then linked back to Russia. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. I've got a lot more to do, but let's go ahead and open the floor to questions. I've been talking now for about 25 minutes. Like I said, this was a really long remote and I'm only halfway through it. So let's open the floor to people. Are there any questions or confusions about why the hacking happened, what Putin wants, how and why he's communicating with Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Trump, and what the push is against NATO and the UN? Any questions? Rome is burning, yeah. Hi, Roxanne, good to see you. Shari, how will Trump be received in El Paso? Not well. I think that's not gonna, he shouldn't be going there. Julie, the NRA is imploding. Yes, because the NRA took money and it was part of this slow, steady desire on the part of Putin to open up those trade routes which have been blocked by the American military and the UN. And the reason they blocked him was because he wanted to connect his military with North Korea and China, and that's the concern. But specifically, he wants to squeeze out Pakistan. So if you look back at that map and you look at Pakistan as a country that's been heavily influenced by Muslim extremists with nuclear weapons, and you think about Obama saying Pakistan keeps me awake at night, you can see why the intelligence agencies are saying Mayday, 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 because we see this trend within the intelligence agencies and within the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party, where they want to make money and they want to keep the trade out. This is a big part of the libertarian movement. Keep the borders open, keep the borders open, keep the trade open. So you have people like Ron Paul going to Russia. The libertarians love it. So where does libertarianism come from? It comes from Ayn Rand, the fountainhead, right? Atlas Shrugged. And she was a upper middle class woman. I believe her father owned a pharmacy. And there was not really much of a middle class in Russia during the fall of the Tsar. I think it was something like 80–90% of Russia was starving, with quite a large percentage were slaves, they were serfs, and they ran a revolt, and it became the socialist revolt. And then there was another group of intellectuals, academics, aristocrats who really were eugenicists. They believed that the cream rise to the top, and if you couldn't make it, tough luck. And so the peasants were inferior, just let them die. If you're successful, it's because you're smarter and better. It's not because your dad gave you $1 million. So that's the split between the libertarians in Russia and the socialists in Russia. So which group do you think Putin belongs to? Which group does Putin belong to? He belongs to the libertarians, of course, which some have called the religion that is, it tends to attract a lot of malignant narcissists, white supremacists, right? Because it's linked with eugenics, the eugenics of the turn of the century, the belief in the innate superiority, a very primitive understanding of Darwinian theory, right? So this is the philosophy: eat or be eaten, only the strongest will survive, bring in an amoral army to just keep the trade moving. This area that we're talking about, Iran and Afghanistan, parts of Mongolia, going into Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, etc., where all these trade routes are, it's always been kind of like the Wild West in the sense that there's been ambushing. This is, if you look also at Chechnya, if you go into Putin, the remotes we did for Putin, you know, he got tired of being ambushed. He got tired of the Chechnyan rebels being funded by Saudi Arabia. It goes back to, so he has declared war on Muslim extremism, particularly the Sunni, the Wahhabi sect. And instead he has sided, because of the open trade, he sided with the Shia. So that's what that's about. All right. Questions. Yes, it's not a good time right now for The tone of that we're dealing with the end. Yeah, I think that the United Nations is going to win. I think that Nancy Pelosi is going to win. I don't think Putin's going to win. We're not going to have an amoral group of mercenaries. Oh, the purpose of today's discussion is so that activists, see, y'all thought I was on the side of Putin. You don't understand how this works. I'm on the side of America. But if you're going to be a remote viewer, you're going to have to wade through a lot of stuff. You're going to have to wade through a lot of stuff. So I apologize if people misunderstood the point of me getting into Putin's head. So now I think Putin is just pulling back, and he's been found out, and let's be reasonable, please do not attack me. But what's actually happening is that the British are coming. The British showed up, and they're the American intelligence, and they're hitting Russia very, very, very hard with anti-Putin stuff. They are supporting the rebellion, and there are rebellions happening all over the world against tyranny. And that's the second part of today's remote. The Renaissance, that beautiful, cool breeze, that Renaissance and that music that's hitting the planet. And that's another thing we're going to talk about. Yeah. Ooh, Roxanne is putting in some interesting comments. She's always doing that, making us think. The SDNY and Trump, that's not what today's remote is about. My brain goes wherever it's going to go during a remote, and I have to go where the energy takes me. So the energy took me to some very weird places last night. All right, the other message, there is a message for the people from Great Britain regarding Brexit. The next conversation we're going to have is about Brexit. Today's remote is global. It's not, we're doing world affairs more than Trump, because world affairs are more important to Spirit, and Trump is not, and the Mueller investigation was not really where it was at. It was about the trade routes. So it's important for us to just talk about what's really going on, and not get bogged down in the noise, and not get bogged down in the distraction, which is what the useful idiot was. The real issue is these trade routes. The real issue is the security around these areas. Okay, so the message from Spirit to the people of Great Britain regarding Brexit, because I meditated on Brexit again last night. People in England are like, could you look at Brexit? Could you? So in la 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 la. Here's the message from Spirit regarding Brexit. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. It's not going to happen. No. Everything is not possible in the universe, said the universe. There are certain immutable laws that govern the universe in this dimension. It takes a lot of energy to change the laws in the universe. So, no, Brexit's not going to happen. It can't happen. It isn't feasible. Instead, Spirit would like you to focus on global warming, put your attention towards that. Give up Brexit and begin protecting the Irish Sea because the waters are warming. That was the message from Spirit. So it goes back to the same thing of the first remote. We need to find a way to stop the nuclear arms race and the military arms race, establish peacekeeping troops in these trade areas that can monitor it responsibly. This is Nancy Pelosi's argument. A strong UN, a strong NATO will go in and will ensure that those areas, the World Bank, the meeting that took place at the World Bank where none of us were entitled to find out what was happening, it was about this bankruptcy. It's about the global bankruptcy and the fact that we have got to do something because the world is in an environmental crisis and all our money is being poured into these wars that cannot be won. So what's the solution? That's all this is about. That's all this is about. So for Pelosi, it's about the United Nations and NATO coming in, and it's going to be NATO handling those open trade routes. The other thing, as far as NATO is concerned and the UN is concerned, is that Putin has to go. So Putin's not going to get what Putin wants. Putin's not going to get what Putin wants. And he's not going to get what he wants. The UN's coming in. The World Bank can, if the World Bank's going to fund anything, it's not going to be private contractors. It needs to be the UN and NATO, and it needs to be a moral military, because the argument from Putin, the argument from the libertarians, the argument from the, hey, free sales, free market, woohoo, it's all free, is this type of work is traumatic for regular people. So sociopaths, disillusioned people, people who have no moral compass are perfect for the job. So we have high suicide rates, depression, etc. in our military, because morally ethical people people with a conscience wouldn't do these types of things. And so they need to go, and we need to bring people in. This is the argument, right? We need to bring people in who have no moral problem with keeping the trade going at the expense of, human life, etc. So those of us that are liberals, those of us that are progressives, now I'm going to give my opinion because I have one, even though my opinion really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things as a remote viewer. And my opinion is that we need to, as activists, put a lot of pressure on the Democrats not to allow this to happen, to continue to show our support of NATO, to continue to support the UN, and to make sure that we lessen or reduce the power of the contractors. And we should probably even get rid of them, but which is along the lines of the concern and the work that Al Franken was doing. Al Franken was investigating not just the contractors and spoke about the sexual assault allegations, etc., but Al Franken was very concerned about these trade routes as well. He was also very concerned about Citizens United and the fact that the money was coming from foreign governments, which is what we found with the NRA, and we also found foreign money with some, not just with the NRA, but also with these contractors. So does everybody get that? Like that the contractor, that money's getting linked back to Russia? And how Flynn played a part? So Flynn said, oh no, I'm doing this because it's helping America, right? Who doesn't want peace? Well, if you want peace, you do it through the UN, through our allies, and through NATO. So yeah, I think he's going to go to prison for a while. Any questions about this? I'm not allowed to read on Melania Trump, and I don't know why, but I have a block, and I just have to, look, I asked permission. The only reason I'm allowed to tell you people everything today is because I prayed on it, and when I prayed on Nancy Pelosi and meditated, this is what was around her energy. I mean, I don't think that Putin likes the fact that we got to pay dirt. He thought he was in control of the propaganda, right? But underneath the propaganda, ultimately, it's about these trade routes and open trade and stronger alliance with North Korea and China. I don't think it's all bad that we open up to trade. After all, we are bankrupt. But it has to be through the UN and NATO, and it can't be a continuation of the arms race. It has to be a trade that's only of a peaceful nature. All right, so on that note, the other thing we connected with the protesters in Hong Kong. Oh my goodness, did they have a lot to say. I've been to China. I've had some good times in China. I wish China no ill will whatsoever. It's beautiful. I had a good time there. But this is simply me channeling the protesters in China. I want to just make a statement that any opinions I channel are not those of the remote viewer. But there's a growing tide of disconnect. Even though in many ways the economy is doing better for China's middle class. Also, I like the fact that the Chinese have a great sense of humor about some of what they're going through. There is a rising people's revolt happening again in China, and specifically, what the great irony is, it's coming from the communists. So there's a group of communists in China who are old school communist, Mao Zedong communist, that believe that the people are not being honored, the people are not being respected, and instead the people in charge in China are becoming the new aristocracy of China. And they are fighting to make it a democratic People's Republic of China that has more communist values, in the sense that everyone has a great education, everyone is equal, everybody's been given equal opportunity. This is the purest view of the communism that this group of young activists is involved in, that what is best for the people has to be the underlining drive of any nation if it's going to govern the people. And this is exactly as I heard it from the protesters. This is the message from Hong Kong. They said, we will knock them off their high horses. This is the people's revolt. This is the people's revolt of China. And that they have become the very thing we fought a revolution to stop. And they said we will knock them from their high horses. So there's is a foreign government responsible for this? Is foreign money going to be linked to this revolution? Possibly, I don't know. But there's just a feeling of discontent in China amongst the young, that the country is going back to a feudalist society amongst the very, very wealthy in charge of the government, and everybody else is going back to being poor. And it's not in keeping with the vision of China that was part of the original communist revolt. All right. Okay. Putin is he's using libertarianism and quote unquote realism because he wants to get his trade out. It's always the same thing. He's not very complicated. And the trade means strengthening ties with China and North Korea, which is a trade route, and also getting into Afghanistan, which shares a border with Pakistan and China, and he wants to further isolate Pakistan and probably take control of Pakistan, which he feels is unstable and dangerous, as long as there's a sizable number of people in Pakistan receiving money from Muslim extremists. All of that's true. It's just that Putin isn't the one that should be handling. Okay. Yeah, that's what that was the energy that came in from China. It was this activist, it was this strong energy of the people of China are revolting and we're going to knock them off their high horses. It was this feeling like we are, the people are revolting again, just like we revolted in the 40s and 50s with Mao Zedong and the People's Revolution. We're going to have another revolution. We did it before and we'll do it again. If our government continues to move in this, look, I have no opinion. I work for no government. I'm just the messenger. But that's what I'm hearing in the protest, and it could potentially grow into something far worse if a foreign government is partly responsible, like Britain, which used to have Hong Kong. Then it's possible there's a link with foreign governments. I don't know. Okay, how we doing? How we doing on time? We've been talking for 44 minutes. Long, long, long remotes. Why is North Korea testing again? Oh, we're just being pressured to, it's all this pressure to open this trade route and to privatize it. And everything else is fluff. Everything else is just a distraction. It all boils. This is really the conversation, and the fact that our intelligence agencies, people that work in intelligence, people who have worked for the American government, are going over to these private contracting companies, and the money traced from those is going back to foreign governments like Russia. So in the end, who is the soldier working for? Do you see the problem? This is one of the big remember when we started the remote view that the real investigation was not Trump? It was much deeper than that. It was the intelligence agencies. You know, who's hiring these private contractors? Private contractors who hire people who are part of the American intelligence, soldiers, etc., who then go work for a private contractor, and the money is traced back to foreign governments. What's the security problem there? And that's really what Nancy Pelosi, Al Franken, Adam Schiff, they're fighting the good fight, because that is one of the biggest leaks. At the same time, we have to do something. We do have to pull our resources globally and save the planet. We recognize that, but that doesn't mean we're going to give Putin what he wants. There are ways we can do this in a responsible way, in a safe way, without seeing Putin's vision to stabilize the area. We can get the cost down, and we can work with the UN and NATO and get the cost down, and we can do things to help support our troops and to, you know, write letters, send gifts. There are ways to support our soldiers without betraying the country, right? Okay, so what do people think about remote viewing? What do people think about there's two types of remote viewings. Most of last night's remote viewing was just the traditional remote viewing because we did the geographical stuff. But I would like to know people's opinions about the heart-centered and some of the tricky, sticky situations that I, as the remote viewer, find myself in as I'm channeling all the stuff from the other person. I know a lot of people feel really uncomfortable about it. Does everybody get what's happening? That part of this process is I have to get in really, and then when I've gotten to as far as I can go, then the bond is broken. It seems to be how this is working. So because I feel like I got everything I was supposed to get on this, that's why I wanted to debrief today with everybody as far as we've gotten, to answer any questions, why I said it was pay dirt, what this is really all about. But it also makes me realize why foster kids, people who've had a lot of trauma, often receive this type of training, whether it's in the monasteries in Mongolia. Kids that were poor, orphans, people that had had early trauma tend to have heightened psychic ability. They often get picked to undergo training for remote viewing because of this heightened sensitivity. I also think the reason why people who've been in foster care or who've had that kind of abrupt kind of childhood, we can detach in ways that might seem harsh or cruel to the viewer. But it's a good skill within the context to be able to do that if you're going to be doing heart-centered remotes, because when the job is over, you simply have to thank the person and release them and move on to the next job. And if you're not able to cut cords, you may find that process difficult. But for somebody who has early training where they establish bonds and then cut the bonds, establish bonds and cut the bonds, if you've had that kind, look, there's an aspect to it that's traumatic, but there's also an aspect to it where it's early training that I think allows you to be a good remote viewer. You go in, you have the bond, you feel the love, you allow the connection, you see until all your questions are answered. I feel like all my personal questions were answered, and then you thank the person and the bond is over. So, I mean, all right, so that's that, and we're broke, and now the focus is global efforts to save the planet. So expect to see more active involvement worldwide to further isolate Putin, strengthen the UN, strengthen NATO. Yes, we're going to some extent, monitor these trade routes and start to withdraw our military and work on treaties, because we need to divert, the whole planet needs to divert funds towards saving the planet from environmental problems that it's having. Okay, I think we went as far as we could on that. Any questions? Oh yes, be sure and share, like, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,000. I feel like if I get to 10,000, I'll feel like a huge success. So if you can like and subscribe, and please tell people I'm not an agent for the Russian government. I'm just a simple, nice Jewish girl doing meditations in West Hollywood. No need to be frightened. God protect us in the world. Absolutely. Nikki Haley. Yeah, I mean, Nikki Haley was with the UN and she got scared because she probably saw this rising trend of everything becoming privatized. And if I were her, I would have been scared. I don't want to be promoting that. At that point, I would have to resign. If that's what we're looking at, yeah, I got a great idea. We're going to bring in soldiers of fortune. I'd have resigned. Yes, you're doing great. Yeah, I'm out of here. I would have gotten out of there. Wouldn't you? Who here would have stayed? Would you have promoted that? Oh, thank you, Chatty Cathy. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, it's a heart-centered yoga. And also the Sikhs and the Sufis. And we have a message from the Sufis today, by the way. I'm going to close with a message from the Sufis. I'm a nice Jewish Buddhist girl from Los Angeles with liberal progressive parents. Yes, it's very true. My mother kind of grew up around the Bernie Sanders type of person. That was my childhood in Portland, Oregon. Oh, you're very welcome. I have a lot of fun doing remote viewing. I've always tried to really understand, I guess, get past all the gaslighting and see to the heart of things. I think because people like me have been gaslit so much throughout our lives, it's like, okay, I'm going to be on this like a dog with a bone. I'm not going to leave this. They're like, can you move on? No, because it's not, I have not reached pay dirt yet. And I will be on this case until I hit pay dirt. I do. I feel like a dog with a bone when I get in. It's like, you know, when I fixate on a target, I will just keep ripping through, and yeah, it can be annoying. You guys can come back. Some of the people that I remote view, I get you don't like them, but so I get if you want to just come back later. That's totally cool. I totally get it. Can y'all see what Marianne Williamson is talking about love, and how love is the answer, and how you always get to the truth, and how people cannot resist the power of love, and how even a psychopath, eventually you're going to get to the core. Putin is the closest I've ever been to what I guess we would call a psychopath or a thug, in the sense that we kept digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and he was not vulnerable, right? I mean, it was like taking control, you know, it's like, and then, you know, eventually it goes back to the trade routes, and he was never really vulnerable with us, but we were able to just see what he wanted. The closest to vulnerability, maybe his treatment of his animals, you know, he likes, you know, yeah. I think he is a thug. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably never going to be able to work with neutral Russian researchers now because of this, but Tough love, yeah, tough love. I think we're going to fund probably the resistance in Russia. I know that Putin's popularity has dropped to 49%, and part of that is probably because we are actively involved in fighting Putin, and it's going to get worse. So the argument here is that, okay, we're going to keep building bombs, you're going to keep building bombs, you'll be bankrupt because you can't continue to have a Cold War with Russia, so you're going to have to we're going to terrorize you until you make a deal with us. And Nancy Pelosi's not going to let that happen. That's why she wants to go to NATO. That's why we got it finally. We got past all the BS and we got to the what a load of crap. But can you all see now why Trump is just a distraction? Does everybody get and why Mueller and all of that? This is the issue. This is the real thing that's happening. Marion makes a lot of sense, and I think that she's a good agitator for whoever the president's going to be so that we can start having real conversations about what needs to get taken care of. Even if the next president is Biden. Biden and Kamala Harris would also be a really good pick because I can see Kamala being reelected if she becomes VP. And I know Biden only wants to run for one term, and he's seriously considering Stacey Abrams, which would be good. If he picks Stacey Abrams, that would be great, and then Kamala Harris could be AG. So it actually would work out pretty good with Biden as the president if you think about the kind of cabinet he would build. When I did a remote view on the candidates and what they wanted, so I've got a lot more to do here. Oh, I took so many notes, people. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through everything. But yeah, so that's the story. And it looks like, yeah, I just don't think there's more that we can say about it in terms of where we're headed and what the political issues are. But yeah, so in terms of what the candidates wanted, that was what I wanted to talk about next. The first person I went to was Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders definitely wants to be the president, and I didn't get the impression that he was trying to do anything more than be the president. He has a democratic socialist agenda, so that means that he's enemy number one as far as the libertarians are concerned. And it's the libertarians that are basically selling everything that's not locked to the floor, including selling out our military and replacing it with and everything will just work itself out, right? Just the way Ayn Rand said it was going to work itself out. So, AKA libertarianism, which I think lends itself. If you are a malignant narcissist, if you are a eugenicist, if you are a sociopath or a psychopath, then you're going to feel very comfortable in the libertarian camp. If you're a bleeding heart liberal that believes that all human beings are entitled to respect and dignity, human life, and that children have a birthright to be loved and cared for, and to have food in their belly, and to have, as Marianne Williams said, you should be able to read before the age of 8 because you have a 50% greater chance of incarceration. So we have a moral responsibility to educate and to make education free and affordable because it's what's best for the nation. And educated people pay more taxes, by the way, so ultimately we get our money back. That's more the argument of the democratic socialist. In plainer words, pay now and you get your money back later. That paying for education actually is the better financial investment because you take the Oracle of Whimsy, for example. When I was a high school dropout working as a diner waitress, how much taxes was I paying? I wasn't paying taxes hardly at all because I was barely surviving. But if you're looking at me as a sole practitioner and as a doctor, I'm paying a lot of taxes. So America got its money back. They invested in my education. I work at preventative medicine, so the American government saves on Medicare because I work with mostly seniors and people over the age of 60. So they save a couple $1,000,000 a year in preventative medicine. And then they also get me on taxes. So they double dip. That's the socialist argument. So that is the real war. And both schools come, ironically, from the Russian Revolution. The responses to the Russian Revolution. All right. Wow. We got through a lot of stuff. We're going to go ahead and close with a message from the Sufi. I wonder if I wrote it on another piece of paper or if I will remember everything I heard from the Sufi. Okay. Before I do the Sufi, there was a message from Nancy Pelosi. Like I said, I was downloading for like 4 hours last night. In terms of Putin and Nancy Pelosi, she wanted us to hear her side, not just Dan Coates' side. So here's a message from Nancy Pelosi regarding Putin. First off, she calls him Prince Putin. The Prince Putin. And I think that the reason she does that is because Putin has a fantasy that he's going to be the next Tsar of Russia, or he believes he's the next Tsar of Russia. So Nancy Pelosi calls him Prince Putin. No, Prince Putin, you're not going to get your trade routes. She says that quite the opposite. Don't be fooled by, do not be fooled by the messages you're receiving from Vladimir Putin, Mr. Putin, because in fact he has violated countless treaties. She says he has violated a host of treaties and has been squandering Russia's resources, including their intellectual resources, which he's squandered and exploited. It's led to a general slow decay of the system. In plain words, he poorly handled Russia's debts. He has squandered her natural resources, and he has also not treated his intellectual resources well, and that has led to a slow, steady decay of Russia's economic system. He has continually cut funding for social programs, right? Because he's a libertarian, he's not a socialist. He is in violation of international treaties. He is known for this. He is diverting funds that are supposed to go to his own people and putting it in his own coffers and paying friends, and he has violated boundaries. So Nancy Pelosi wanted us to know that, and that's really where she's coming from, and that's, again, why we need to strengthen NATO and not be seduced into this idea of privatizing everything like the libertarians want to do and selling our intelligence for a buck. That's the enemy, really. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is the Sufis. So when you're meditating on love, when you're going and floating around in the Akashic record and you're looking for somebody to meet your heart, and you're praying for world peace, sometimes you connect with people in this state of love in very beautiful, wonderful ways. Now, those people who are learning the heart-centered meditation know that we ground ourselves. We relax, we ground ourselves so that we are connected with Mother Earth, which is the source of all life. We put ourselves in white light protection, we ground ourselves, we open our hearts, we let ourselves receive the love of Mother God and the universe and become vehicles of love. I align myself with the Eightfold Path. And we try to open our hearts. I hope I didn't lose somebody was calling, I had to decline that. So, is everybody still seeing me? Okay, just checking. Okay, so during this meditation last night, I connected with a group of healers and spiritual people who are from the Sufi tradition. They're Sufi. This is the spiritual tradition that grew out of Islam. The Sufis can be traced back to the writings of Rumi and Hafiz in Iran and early Persia. and they appear to be sending streams of white light to the planet. White light, peace, and love to the planet. And so the message we got from the Sufis are, first off, greetings from the Sufi community. They're sending love and peace from many parts of the world. I felt this love coming from Morocco. They send their love. We can feel the lights of the Sufi in Morocco, in Spain. You can feel us in Iran and in Pakistan as this beautiful wave of love and peace and God's love descends on the world from the Sufi people. We send our love, we send our peace. And they want people to know that not only do they send love and peace, but the message of Islam from the Sufi perspective is, we don't come to judge, we don't come to change you, we're not trying to make you something you're not or anything like that. The Sufi come just to be vehicles of love and peace and light to the world. And I see them using their energy and transforming their, they eat the food, they say prayers on the food, and then they transform that energy into prayers and light, which they give to us and to the rest of the world. And you can find us in the music. You can find us in the music. If you come and listen to the Sufi music, you are welcome. Everyone is welcome to come and be with us, the Sufi community. We don't desire to convert or change you. We accept everyone as Sufis. We only want to spread light and peace, and you are welcome, and to not be afraid. And they're praying for everyone who is in darkness, that they be messengers of love and peace. And all the Sufi community simply sends love and peace and light, and we welcome you, and you are welcome at our table. It's a really simple prayer that that you will find us, and you will find God, Allah, as they understand this energy, through our music, through our poetry, and through dance. And if you let yourself listen to our music, the Sufi music, if you let yourself take in the prayers, and if you let yourself be swept away, and let your body be swept away by the music of the Sufi people, we believe that you will know the oneness of God, God's love for you and for this planet. And in this way, this is the gift of the Sufi message. And so they send us peace. And it goes back to that vision I had of a Renaissance sweeping the world through music, that God will meet us halfway, that Mother God, that Mother Earth will meet us halfway through music. And we will see this music rising in the southern United States amongst the Sufi, this spiritual music, the Renaissance of the Muslim community, Arab community. You'll find it in their music. And we will find this also in other communities as well, the Christian community, the Jewish community. And it's the message of peace and love and light and compassion. And that is the great Renaissance. And love, peace, and compassion towards the earth. And the work we must all do together as brothers and sisters to save the earth. And last night it came from the Sufi. All right, so we've gone on for over an hour. We're going to go ahead and close the remote and the remote view review. I hope everyone enjoyed this review of the remote, and I want to thank everybody for participating today. And I was listening to Sufi music last night, and when I was doing my meditation, and I think that's why I was able to follow that stream back to the people who are saying those prayers, and to let them know that we've received their prayers, their beautiful prayers, and we pray for the same thing. All right, thank you everyone who has stopped by this channel. If you'd like to be involved in the peace movement and creating peace, there are some great organizations out there. We donate to the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, and other organizations that help oppressed people. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you next time. God bless.